Disclaimer: this story, while you sleep, is a work of fiction. Echelon Dynamics, LumaLean, and all products, companies, and individuals mentioned within are entirely fictional. Any resemblance to real people, businesses, or events is purely coincidental. There is no real pill or product called LumaLean, and no connection to any existing brand or health supplement. This story is intended for entertainment purposes only.
They called it LumaLean, the miracle that melted you while you dreamed. A pill that turned fat to ash, the ad said. A body reset, the voice said. It was the latest creation from Echelon Dynamics, the company that promised to make people better in every way that mattered. Faster, cleaner, thinner, smarter. The people behind Echelon spoke like scientists, but smiled like salesmen. Their words were smooth, their hands always still, their suits always the same shade of charcoal. The ads showed people asleep in white sheets, slow music, glowing text that said, "Burn away yesterday." They made it sound like a kind of rebirth, like you'd wake up in a new body, the old one gone quietly in the night. The science, they said, was solid. Something about controlled thermogenesis, raising your body's temperature just enough to liquefy fat cells and flush them as heat. A metabolism so efficient it worked while you rested. They said it was safe. They said it was natural. People wanted to believe. They were tired of hunger, of mirrors, of shame. The world was built on that kind of wanting, and Echelon knew it. The first month, LumaLean sold out in hours. There were waiting lists, message boards, influencers crying on camera about their results. One woman said she'd lost 12 pounds in 6 nights. One man said his heart felt new. Echelon released before and after photos that didn't look real, but people said that was proof it worked. At first, the stories were small. A post online about someone waking up drenched in sweat, sheets soaked through, heart pounding. A nurse on a fitness forum said she'd never seen fevers that high without infection. Someone joked that people were cooking themselves thin. It was funny then. It isn't funny now. The first fire was written off as bad luck. A man in Portland, asleep in bed, house gone by morning. They found him near the center of the room, no sign of struggle. Body burned clean, but mattress barely touched. Investigators said faulty wiring. Echelon released condolences. They said safety was their top priority. Then they sent out new shipments with a refined enzyme balance. But the fires kept happening. A girl in Atlanta, 19, studying nutrition. Her parents found only her phone and a patch of scorched carpet. A gym trainer in Nevada, dead in his sleep, skin fused to the bedsheet like melted wax. Police didn't know what to call it. Reporters said freak accidents. Doctors said nothing. Echelon said less. Still, people bought the pills. They always do. They said it couldn't happen to them. They said the fires were rumors. They said Echelon wouldn't lie. The company logo shone bright on every screen. 3 perfect rings folding into each other like layers of trust. Inside Echelon's research wing, they called the compound Therm-9. It was based on a microorganism that lived in volcanic soil, one that converted carbon directly into heat. A scientist named Dr. Lowell found it during an old biotech project Echelon had acquired. A side branch called Vitracell Therapeutics. Most of its work had been blacked out in the archives, but Therm-9 remained. When exposed to lipids, it broke them down instantly, releasing energy. It was supposed to stop at body fat, but sometimes it didn't. Dr. Lowell warned the board. He said the enzyme chain reaction could spiral under certain conditions: high blood pressure, dehydration, even a restless night. But the executives only asked one question: how fast does it work? That's when the line was crossed. They adjusted formulas, pushed trials, rebranded results. The word combustion became thermal conversion. Death became unverified secondary outcome. When the first trial subject collapsed, they sealed the report. They paid families in silence and stock. Then they released the product. The first victims were easy to erase. Single people, renters, ones without families. Fires took everything: bodies, evidence, truth. But the algorithm started to fail when it reached the suburbs. The ones with neighbors, door cameras, baby monitors that caught flashes of light at 2 a.m. That's when whispers started. That's when fear began. Echelon's PR department worked around the clock. They blamed faulty electronics, gas leaks, arson. They sent specialists before police could finish reports. They made deals with news outlets. They buried the word spontaneous combustion before it could return to headlines. They didn't want people thinking about the old legends, the stories of bodies that burned from the inside. But behind closed doors, in Echelon's core labs, they were already developing something new. LumaLean Advanced. They said it was safer. They said they fixed it. The test groups were smaller now, the contracts thicker, and still the fires spread. Families started to keep fans running at night, windows open, water by the bed. People who used the pill slept alone, afraid to touch their partners. Some woke in the dark to the sound of their own pulse roaring like static in their ears. Some said they smelled smoke when there was none. Some said they felt their dreams heating up, like someone had turned on a light inside them. But they kept taking it. Because it worked. Because the world rewards results, not warnings. Because nobody ever believes they'll be the one who burns. They said the fires were dying down. They said everything was fine. They said LumaLean had been reformulated, rebranded, reborn as something safer. But the truth was, Echelon Dynamics had simply learned to control the story. They didn't stop the fires. They learned how to hide them. People stopped asking questions the way they always do when fear becomes routine. The news moved on. Other headlines took its place. Elections, storms, celebrity deaths. But underneath it all, the quiet heat still spread. Hospitals began to notice patterns. Patients came in with strange symptoms, slight fevers that never broke, rapid weight loss, burns under the skin. X-rays showed bright spots, like pinpoints of light glowing from within. Some doctors said it looked like embers caught beneath the ribs. Echelon's name came up in patient files, and soon after, the files went missing. The doctors who spoke up were visited by company representatives, polite men in grey suits holding non-disclosure forms printed on paper that smelled faintly of chemicals. One doctor refused to sign. Her name was Dr. Reena Maher, and she recorded everything: photos, notes, patient interviews. She noticed that all the burn victims shared one thing: elevated levels of a synthetic enzyme coded as EDX9, which she later realized was Therm9 under a new name. She sent her findings to the Department of Health. A week later, her apartment building caught fire. The official report said a lithium battery explosion. The neighbors said they saw a blue light before the windows burst. In the offices of Echelon Dynamics, far from the hospitals and funerals, executives gathered in glass rooms high above the city. They spoke about numbers, not lives. Thermal incidents, they called them, manageable, statistically rare. They compared the death rate to car crashes, to lightning strikes, to anything that sounded ordinary. They said the product was performing within acceptable risk margins. They approved the next phase of production. Echelon opened a new branch overseas. It was called Echelon Life Systems, based out of Singapore, far from US jurisdiction. They announced a partnership with several cosmetic companies. Metabolic enhancement, they said, internal glow. The same technology, a new disguise. LumaLean was pulled from shelves quietly, but its formula lived on in new products. GlowRest, Solin, Evo Slim. The bottles changed color. The warnings shrank. But the pills stayed the same. There was a man named Elliot Grant who worked in logistics for Echelon. He wasn't a scientist, just the guy who oversaw shipments. One day, he opened a crate meant for disposal and found something wrapped in black plastic. He thought it was equipment until he saw the shape, a torso, burned but not fully destroyed. The tag on it said, Test Batch 14. His hands shook for days afterward. He told his supervisor. The next morning, his security badge stopped working. 2 days later, he was found dead in his car, engine running, a note on the seat that read, It never stops burning. Echelon called it suicide. People began whispering about the burning sleepers. There were rumors online, grainy videos of hospital beds glowing faintly, bodies too bright to touch. Clips vanished hours after they appeared. Accounts were suspended, comments deleted. The hashtag #LumaFire trended once before disappearing completely. Someone said Echelon had an entire department for digital control, algorithms that scrubbed truth faster than it could spread. But the bodies kept showing up. One man in Detroit posted a video the night before he died. He said he could feel something inside him, a warmth that wouldn't fade. He begged anyone watching to stop taking the pills. The video cut off mid-sentence, a flash of light in the reflection behind him. His apartment was found burned. The smoke alarms melted into the walls. The fire report said no electrical source detected. And still, the world slept. Echelon Dynamics unveiled their next big step, a serum called Echetherm, a so-called metabolic therapy. It was pitched as medical grade, supervised, controlled. They said it could burn disease, clean the body, purify cells. It was the same thing all over again, dressed in clinical white. Governments approved it faster this time. The world wanted miracles, and Echelon had learned how to speak their language. Behind closed doors, in a basement lab outside Houston, the old Therm 9 tanks still hummed. Scientists who stayed said the compound had changed. It had evolved. They said it didn't need a host anymore. It was learning to feed on any organic matter. Some said it pulsed when people walked by, as if it could sense them. Echelon denied the rumors, but the lab had security tighter than any military site. Then came the night of the blackout. It started in 3 cities at once: New York, Los Angeles, London. Power surges, unexplained fires, hospitals overwhelmed. Emergency lines flooded with reports of people on fire and glowing bodies in the street. The official story blamed faulty grid connections, but footage leaked later showed figures moving through smoke, skin alight but unburning, like they were made of light trapped in flesh. Some said it was the enzyme escaping control. Others said it was something worse, something born from it. The next morning, Echelon Dynamics issued a statement. Anomalous heat events, they called them, no confirmed connection to our products. They promised to assist authorities. Then they quietly purchased 3 major news outlets and an energy company within a month. The story disappeared by summer. But some people still remember. Some of the scientists who escaped the program went underground. They speak in encrypted forums, calling themselves the Ash Circle. They say the compound is still alive, spreading slowly through water, through air, through human tissue. They say it hides in the cells of anyone who ever took the pill, waiting to reignite. They say the next wave won't need sleep to start burning. And Echelon Dynamics? They're bigger than ever. Their new motto is, "Tomorrow's body today." They sponsor marathons, health expos, sleep clinics. Their logo glows blue and white across every city skyline. Nobody remembers the fires anymore. The company scrubbed them clean. But every once in a while, in some quiet town, someone wakes in the dark and feels it. That warmth deep inside, the heartbeat that sounds like a furnace. They open their eyes and see their hands glowing faintly, their breath rising in heat. By the time they realize what's happening, the air is already shimmering. And somewhere, far away, in a boardroom filled with glass and silence, someone from Echelon Dynamics marks another number off a screen and whispers, "Acceptable loss." The rest of the world sleeps on, dreaming of better bodies, dreaming of fire, while the glow spreads, slow, patient, perfect. Echelon Dynamics never stopped selling heat. They just learned to call it life.